Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and in the patch 9.2.5, many different classes saw both PvE and PvP improvements. Among those classes was the Spec of Outlaw Rogue, which saw significant gains in both its raid damage and AoE performance. Since those recent updates, the Spec has massively grown in popularity, claiming a competitive edge for PvE and game content. And recently, I've been getting messages from you guys telling me that some of you are returning for the patch 9.2.5, either in anticipation of the new Season 4 content or to prepare for the next expansion of Dragonflight, and are looking for a new class to pick up for these future updates. So in today's video, I wanted to do an updated guide to the much improved Outlaw Rogue in case you're looking to dive into raiding and Mythic Plus content with a powerful melee playstyle. But right before we get into today's guide, most of you guys watching these videos are still not subscribed. However, the more of you remind, the more of you do. So let's keep it going. Subscribe to the channel as well as hit the bell if you're watching these videos anyway, especially if you want to catch regular updates for the patch 9.2.5 as well as more announcements about the future expansion of Dragonflight. First, the basic playstyle of the Outlaw Rogue. It's a fun, fast-paced playstyle with a lot of cooldown reduction features. Unlike Subtlety or Assassination, you almost never hold back your CDs, trying to use them as much as possible to maximize their value in PvE content. Your damage can also be greatly amplified with the various buffs from the Roll the Bones mechanic, as long as you don't mind a little bit of RNG in your playstyle. Next, let's get into the talents. In the first throw, all three choices, Weapon Master, Quick Draw, and Ghosted Strike are fairly equal. Every one of these talent options has value depending on your covenant of choice. But for any new players starting out with Outlaw Rogues, I suggest running the talent of Quick Draw as the simple rotational option. The bonus melee range from Acrobatic Strikes in the second row is the perfect quality of life upgrade. In the third row, Deeper Stratagem is the best DPS oriented choice, unless you play Kyrian, where Mark for Death could be more valuable. In the fourth row, Cheat Death is your best friend when it comes to survivability. In the fifth row, it's really down to personal preference, but I prefer Dirty Tricks, specifically for Mythic Plus content. In the next row, Alacrity is currently the best DPS option, even though the other talents are much more fun. In the final row, Blade Rush is the best single target choice, though Dance and Steel can be ran with certain covenants. Speaking about covenants, let's talk about all the possible choices. Starting with the Venthyr Covenant, which is a powerful single target output, but still has some relevant damage for AoE content. The Venthyr Flagellation ability is quite strong. It should either be used on cooldown or during moments where the enemy takes amplified damage. Rotationally, it is best to use Flagellation right before spending common points into a finisher. When playing the Venthyr Covenant, you want to optimize for Weapon Master in the first row and potentially Dance and Steel in Mythic Plus content. As the Venthyr Covenant, you'll primarily play the Theotar Soulbind for triple potency, using Count the Odds, Triple Threat, and the Lashing Scars conduits. When playing the Venthyr Covenant, your best legendary is Concealed Blunderbuss, where your Sinister Strikes can cause your next pistol shots to enter a rapid fire mode. Make sure to spend all of your common points before using the legendary proc. You can also play the Kyrian Covenant, which is a much harder playstyle to master, but when played correctly, it offers a great mix of single target and AoE damage output. Rotationally, the Kyrian Echoing Reprimand ability should be used on cooldown as long as you won't overcap on combo points. This covenant favors running talents like Ghosted Strike and Mark for Death, which benefit from various cooldown reduction benefits. Both of these talents should be used on cooldown as much as possible, as long as you won't overcap on combo points. As a Kyrian, you'll use the Mechanical Soulbind with triple potency, using Count the Odds, Sleight of Hand, and Reverberation conduits. As a Kyrian, you'll also be playing the Shadow Dust legendary. With this legendary, you'll want to use Vanish aggressively, specifically when Adrenaline Rush and Echoing Reprimand are both on cooldown. Finally, Outlaw Rogue can be played with the Necrolord Covenant, which prioritizes massive AoE damage output. This playstyle is also much easier to play, making it a solid choice for starting out players. Rotationally, you want to maintain the Bone Spike Bleed on every single target. For this covenant, you'll be using the triple potency Merrileth Soulbind, using the Sudden Fractures conduit together with Count the Odds and Sleight of Hand. For this covenant, you'll be using the green skin's legendary, which empowers your pistol shots after casting between the eyes. Then we have the Outlaw Rogue tier set added in the patch 9.2. This is a very passive tier set that will noticeably speed up your gameplay. Your mastery now has a chance to proc pistol shots, which will also generate combo points. And after 6 pistol shots, your next pistol will fire a free between the eyes. While this tier set doesn't directly change your overall playstyle, you will generate far more combo points and gain more value out of cooldown reduction passively as you play your class. Next, the playstyle and rotation. First things first, before engaging in combat, you want to maintain instant poison and numbing poison on your rogue. Before and during combat, you'll use the ability of Roll the Bones to gain one of the assortment of various buffs. As a starting player, just focus on maintaining a buff from Roll the Bones, no matter which buff it is. As an experienced player, certain buffs do offer more damage than others, but I will discuss the reroll logic for Roll the Bones after taking a closer look at the rotation. The general playstyle for Outlaw Rogue is to generate combo points and spend them accordingly. Sinister Strike will be your primary way of generating combo points. Every time you Sinister Strike, there's a chance you'll strike twice, granting you an empowered proc of Pistol Shot. If you're playing the talents of Weapon Master or Ghost Strike, you will only use pistol shots when below 60 energy. Otherwise, with Quick Draw, you want to use pistol shot procs as often and early as possible, as long as you won't overgenerate your combo points. When you reach 5 or 6 combo points, you can invest them into finishers. Slice and Dice is going to be your #1 priority, and this finisher needs to be maintained at all times within combat. When Slice and Dice does not need to be refreshed, you'll spend your combo points into Between the Eyes as often as possible. But when Slice and Dice is up and Between the Eyes is on cooldown, the rest of your combo points will be funneled into Dispatch. Whenever Vanish is off cooldown, try to vanish and ambush your target, as long as you won't overgenerate your combo points. Ambush does great damage, generates your combo points, and has an extra interaction with the Count the Odds conduit. During combat, you'll want to use the ability of Adrenaline Rush as often as possible. Adrenaline Rush fuels you full of energy and gives you faster paced gameplay. While Adrenaline Rush is a 3-minute cooldown, it plays into the Outlaw Rogue natural cooldown reduction mechanic. The more aggressively you spend combo points into finishers, the faster you'll see this ability come back up. Therefore, you want to use this cooldown as often as possible to get even more value out of your damage. The AoE for Outlaw Rogue is really easy. Whenever tackling more than one target, maintain the buff of Blade Flurry at all times. Blade Flurry will naturally cleave all of your single target damage to multiple targets. When using your Roll the Bones ability, certain buffs are better than others when it comes to PvE combat. If you're looking to maximize your damage, the 3 buffs you want to maintain the longest from Roll the Bones are going to be Broadside, True Bearing, and Skull and Crossbones if you are of Venthyr Covenant. You want to keep any 2 buffs up for as long as possible, unless those 2 buffs are Buried Treasure and Grand Melee. Anything above 2 buffs you want to keep for as long as humanly possible. When it comes to gearing your Outlaw Rogue, your best stats are going to start with Agility, followed by Versatility, then followed by Crit or Haste. Haste benefits greatly in pure single target raid fights, while Crit gains more value in AoE. Lastly, you want to avoid Mastery as much as humanly possible. Some of your gear may have Mastery on it, and that's perfectly okay, but it's not a stat we generally want to prioritize. When it comes to consumables, it is very easy to break the bank. This is why I'll prioritize all consumables from the ones that give the most value to the least. If you're trying to play it cheap, make sure you invest into a Flask of Power that grants you bonus primary stats, as well as sharpening stones or weighted stones for AoE content. Shadow Core oils can be swapped out for pure single target damage. If gold isn't an issue, then Phantom Fire could be utilized in raids, while Potion of Spectral Agility benefits in AoE like Mythic Plus content. Stake Mode will grant you bonus versatility, and Augment Ruins can help you inch out more damage. If you have the reputation with the Enlightened Brokers in Zereth Mortis in Haven, you may be able to afford the Infinite Augment Rune, which may save you some gold in the long term. You could also buff your stamina for survivability with armor kits. For your enchants, you'll want to prioritize survivability as well as agility, versatility on both of your rings, as well as celestial guidance and sinful revelations for your weapons. When gearing your rogue, you can also prioritize certain instances to pick up some of your best in slot items, like the File from Plaguefall, which scales incredibly well with the Outlaw Rogue damage output. Salia's Trinket from Tazavesh also offers a fantastic amount of bonus secondary stats. The Cast Trinket from Sepulchre is a very powerful trinket. Wait for the trinket to rotate to the axe buff to utilize its damage most optimally. From Plaguefall, you can also pick up the Pox Storm Sword, which is a fantastic option in AoE content. And if you've played in the previous raid of Sanctum of Domination, the Edge of Night Sylvanas Dagger is still a very competitive option to slot in your offhand. And that's going to be everything you need to pick up Outlaw Rogue for the patch 9.25 for raids and Mythic Plus content. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are you planning on picking up Outlaw Rogue for this recent patch update? And if you currently play Outlaw, what other helpful advice would you offer to brand new starting players? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. As per always, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single video and live stream, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you got any more questions regarding Outlaw Rogues. DMs are always open. Join our Discord to join our community. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.